These days, people talking Clemson football, it's not typically about the last game, the opponent, or what they're going to do the next week. It's typically about the college football playoff and when is it going to get here for us to watch Clemson play somebody who might be competitive with them. We got Pigskin Pete on the line. You can join him here on YouTube. Just look up Pigskin Pete talking Clemson, the ACC, and the nation. Pigskin Pete, man, how you doing?
You already know the answer to that, Mark. I'm amazing and fantastic. By the way, before we get started, happy holidays to all the viewers out there. And of course, happy holidays to you, Mark.
I appreciate that. Yeah, Thanksgiving has passed us by, but this is the holiday season. So it's aside from weather situations and conditions that I don't relish, one of my favorite times of the year.
Yeah, you're up there in the Northeast where it's cold. I'm down here in the South where it's right now it's about 60 degrees and sunny. But you know what you need behind you there? You need to put up a Christmas tree back there to get this thing festive.
Well, we will do that. We've done that in the past. We will get the Christmas tree up. The only issue with my Christmas situation for the past 2 years, and this will be the third year, is that my daughter's off to college. And my daughter and I decorating the house, putting up the Christmas tree. I've got a son. He could care less. So he doesn't care. She gets into it. I get into it. So it's kind of a son-daughter thing to or father-daughter thing to a certain extent. So till she gets home from college, I'm just not dealing with any of that because, that's kind of our deal. So we're going to have to wait on the holiday festivities around the Mark Rogers TV household.
Yeah, I hear you. I spent the entire day yesterday putting up the Christmas tree and decorating the tree while my wife and kids sat on the couch and watched me do it. So I know how you feel.
There it is. There it is. So, all right. A lot of people are going to watch your football team for the first time in forever. I think a lot of people checked out after Texas A&M. That was my one hope, that they would play a competitive game once I saw Syracuse and what they were all about this year. And so a lot of people just keeping track of Clemson. Okay, what was the score this week? Okay, 52-3. All right. And they're watching other football games. So how well is this team playing? How good are they? Because we haven't been watching.
Well, I think they're better than they were last year. I've been saying that ever since mid-season when they were receiving a lot of criticism, especially after the North Carolina game. People were saying this Clemson team just doesn't stack up to the team last year. And I was coming on here saying, hold on now. By every metric, every stat, they were scoring more points per game. They were winning games by more points. The point differential was higher. They were holding teams on defense to less points than they were last year. So by every measurable, they were at least as good or better than they were last year. They were playing basically the same competition as they were last year. Well, what they've gone on to do since then is set every record at Clemson. I mean, they scored more points in a regular season than any team Clemson's ever had. They're holding teams to fewer yards and points than any Clemson defense ever has. They're blowing everybody off the map. I mean, I don't know what to say except for the fact that this team is better than it was last year by every measurable.
I'll be DVRing the game. I'll watch the other games that are more important. Well, I shouldn't. They're not more important. They're most likely going to be more competitive. Let's put it that way. But I will watch the game at some point. I would like to believe that Virginia can keep it a game. North Carolina and Virginia Tech did against two Clemson teams that went to the national championship game. So maybe Virginia can pull off something similar and not play a pit role where it was just a snoozer from the start.
Yeah, I think Virginia is a very good team. And that's where I'm going to leave it. I think they're a very good team. Problem is, Clemson's a very great team, and they're going to run into a buzzsaw here. I don't know what the line's like, 28.5 or something.
Whoa. Is it that high?
Yeah, it's 28.5.
Right. I thought it would be a little bit less than that, but
I don't know. I don't know whether they'll cover that or not, but I think that's probably about what you'll see, 28, 30 point win.
So Virginia is, forget their record, forget where they should be ranked. Where would you place them in college football? What range of team, if you were just ranking best teams, where do you think they rank? And are they the second best team in the league?
Well, I think they've earned the right to say that they're the second best team in the ACC. I mean, I think it's very close between them, Virginia Tech, and Wake Forest. There's a clump of three right there that a round robin of three teams that are probably pretty similar. As far as nationally, this is the other issue I have with the rankings. Over the past couple of weeks, I feel like Virginia, Wake Forest, and Virginia Tech probably all should have been somewhere between 20 and 25 in the rankings, but they weren't until this. Virginia Tech was ranked 24th until they played Virginia, and then they swapped. Virginia beat Virginia Tech, and they moved up to 24 in the AP anyway. I will see what they do tomorrow in the rankings, but I just look at a 4-loss Iowa State. Are you going to tell me that Iowa State is that much better than Virginia Tech? I don't think they are. I mean, you will never know until they play, unless they played each other on the field. But you also look at some of these group of 5 teams. Everyone talks about strength of schedule. I mean, listen, these group of 5 teams, they play 2 Power 5 teams a year, and you have a bunch of them ranked ahead of these 3-loss ACC teams, and they have 2 losses in the group of 5. I mean, I don't agree with that either. So it's all subjective, and it all plays into the fact that the perception of the ACC affects the AP rankings and, of course, the playoff rankings.
Yeah, so the only group of 5 teams that I have ranked ahead of ACC teams or any other Power 5 teams that have 3 and 4 losses would be the 1-loss teams, Memphis and Boise State. That's how I've got it set up. I've got them in the 16 to 20 range. Then I'm considering those 3 and 4 loss teams from the Power 5, but I don't have like a 2-loss Cincinnati ranked ahead of those teams. I don't have them ranked anymore anyway.
Yeah, but they were as of last week in the playoff rankings. So, those are good teams. Don't get me wrong, but again, this plays into the whole thing. Is are you going off the strength of schedule for some teams, or just do you think they're better? Because you can't say that Cincinnati has a better strength of schedule than any of these teams in the ACC that have 3 losses.
All right, he's Pigskin Pete. Join him here on YouTube, Talking Clemson. What do you have available for us this week?
Well, I'll be doing the live show tomorrow for the ranking ceremony like I do every week. And that's probably it. We'll see. And then I'll probably be doing a couple of live streams this weekend for one or more of the championship games. We'll have to see what the schedule. I don't know what the schedule is. Do they play any of those games at the same time, or is it all at different times?
So the Big 12 plays at noon.
Okay.
The SEC plays about 3:30 or 4. The Big 10 and the ACC go up against each other at night. The Pac-12 plays on Friday night.
Oh, okay. The poor Pac-12, man, they can't catch a break, can they? Well, at least they get a standalone game on Friday night.
Yeah, they've been smart enough to schedule that, I think, ever since they started the championship game to play on Friday night and try to grab the audience.
Yeah, I'll be watching that game. I've only seen, I think, 2 Utah games. They are very impressive.
Yep.
By the way. And provided there's not a couple of upsets this week, they can move their way in the top 4.
Yes, absolutely. They could, and we might have some interesting scenarios in which the playoff committee is going to have to navigate. So what do you think is going to happen this weekend, and what is the result of it going to be in the playoff selections?
So I think if Utah wins and Georgia loses, that Utah will move up into that 4th spot. If Georgia wins, I think you'll see 2 SEC teams in the top 4, obviously LSU and Georgia. Now, where they place LSU and Georgia in the final rankings, I don't know. I mean, would Georgia move all the way up to 1? Would they fall to 3 or 2? I don't know. But outside of that, the only way Oklahoma gets in my opinion, is if both Georgia and Utah lose and they beat Baylor. The outside chance that Baylor gets in, he needs everybody to lose, right? They need everybody to lose and they need to win to get in there.
So the committee looks like they might be faced with the same decision they were last year when they had Oklahoma and Ohio State both with 1 loss and a conference championship between Utah and Oklahoma this year.
Yes, and I think
or Baylor.
It'll be a tough discussion, but I feel like since they have Utah ranked ahead of Oklahoma right now, that would not change. The question is, would they value a Oklahoma win over Baylor more than a Utah win over Oregon? I don't know. That's
the way they get the teams ranked right now. It's pretty much the same win.
Right.
So
exactly.
I've been asked this all week, and basically what I come down to is right now the committee is telling us, at least prior to this week's rankings, they were telling us that they had Utah above Oklahoma, 6 and 7, I believe.
Yeah.
And then, however, Oklahoma just beat a team that they had ranked 21st and beat them by 18 points. Utah blew out a team that's not going to a bowl game with 5 wins. So are they going to flip what is the separation between 6 and 7 going into this week? We don't know if it's a wide gap or a narrow gap, and whether they're going to value that Oklahoma State win enough to vault Oklahoma above Utah. And then it probably comes down to, okay, Baylor and Oregon, are we looking at pretty much the same team, the same level of opponent? And so is it going to come down to who is more impressive in the championship game?
I agree. And where they place those two teams tomorrow night will tell a lot. If Utah stays ahead of Oklahoma, then I think that Utah's got the leg up on that. But the other part of this, and this also plays a part in the championship games in the SEC and the Big Ten, as far as where Ohio State and LSU finish, provided they both win their championship games. Because will they value a win over Georgia for LSU more than they will value a win for Ohio State over Wisconsin? The other part that plays into that is how they win. Like I said, if Ohio State goes in, I think they'll go in to championship week, number one, which is where they were last week. If they go out and blow out Wisconsin 60-10, I don't see them getting jumped by LSU no matter what LSU does. But let's say Ohio State has a 3-point win over Wisconsin, and then LSU just goes and wipes the floor with Georgia. Then in that case, I think you could see LSU jump. So it's not only who they're playing and where they're ranked; it's also the outcome of the game.
Sure,
that plays a part.
All right, Pigskin Pete, check him out on YouTube. It's always a good discussion, Pigskin. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Happy holidays.